Stop chasing and watch how fast people start treating you differently. Not later. Immediately. Not because they suddenly value you, but because you removed something they were relying on. And the problem is, you've been giving that thing away for free. Every single time you try to be understood. Every time you try to keep the interaction going. It's not obvious. That's why you keep doing it. It shows up in moments you don't think matter, a reply that comes too quickly, an explanation that goes too far, staying just a little longer than you should. And in those moments, you think you're building connection, but you're making yourself easier to ignore, easier to delay, easier to replace. And once that shift happens, you can't get that respect back by trying harder. You only get it back one way, and almost nobody does it correctly. Because the moment you start needing someone, you stop being evaluated the same way. Before that, they're deciding if they like you. After that, they're deciding how much you need them. And once that question changes, everything else changes with it. Look at it like this. Two people say the same thing. One sounds calm. The other sounds like they're waiting for approval. Same words. Completely different weight. Because people don't respond to what you say. They respond to how replaceable you seem. And the moment you seem like you're staying no matter what, your value drops instantly. Not slowly. Instantly. If you're starting to notice moments where you feel like you're waiting on people, subscribe. Because those small moments are where the shift actually happens. Here's where most people completely lose it. They feel that shift, and they try to fix it. More messages, more effort, more explaining, thinking that will bring things back. It doesn't, because effort doesn't signal value. It signals dependency. And dependency is the fastest way to lose respect. The more you invest, the more they can afford to invest less. Because now, you're carrying the interaction. And people don't respect what they don't have to maintain. So the harder you try, the less they have to. And once that pattern locks in, you don't get respect back by adding more effort, because effort is what created the imbalance. So if effort makes it worse, what actually restores it? Before we even get into that, you need to understand what chasing actually exposes. Because it's not just something you do, it's something people read. Not your words, your standards. The moment you start chasing, you stop filtering people and start adjusting yourself to keep them. And that tells them everything. It tells them you don't have options. You're willing to tolerate more than you should, and you're already thinking about losing them before they've even decided anything. That's why it feels so small when you do it, but looks so obvious from the outside. You've probably felt this before. You send a message, they don't reply, and instead of leaving it, you send something else, just to keep it alive. In your head, that feels normal. But from the outside, it looks like you're trying to hold something that's already slipping. There's a reason Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Because the moment you lose control over your own reactions, you hand that control to someone else. And people can read that faster than you think. So here's the real shift. It starts when you stop trying to control what was never yours. You can't control how fast someone replies. You can't control how they feel about you. You can't control whether they stay or leave, but you've been acting like you can. That's why you chase. Because you think if you do the right thing, you'll get the right outcome. You won't, because outcomes were never yours to control in the first place. The only thing that was ever yours was how you show up. That's why Epictetus also said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." What's in your power is whether you stay or walk away, whether you wait or move on, whether you keep chasing or stop. And the moment you shift that, everything else follows. Be honest with yourself. You've chased at some point. Everyone has. So don't watch this like it doesn't apply to you. If this hits, drop this in the comments. I choose self-respect over chasing. Because that decision is where everything actually starts to change. So what actually changes? Not your value, your behavior, but not in a loud way. In a way nobody notices immediately, including you. You stop reacting, not forcing yourself, just not reacting. You stop sending that extra message. Not because you're playing games, but because you don't feel the need to fix the silence anymore. You stop explaining yourself halfway through a conversation. You notice it, and you just leave it. You stop trying to make things smooth, all the time. And for the first time, your actions are not trying to get a reaction. They're just yours. It feels small, almost like nothing changed. But this is where everything starts changing. There's a moment most people ignore. You type something, you read it again, and you realize you're about to send it just to keep the energy alive, before you send it anyway. Now, you delete it. That one decision is the turning point. Because now, you're no longer trying to hold the interaction together. You're letting it stand on its own. And if it drops, you let it drop. And that's when something unexpected happens, not in you, in them. Because the moment your behavior changes, the pattern they were used to breaks. And people notice breaks. At first, it's subtle. They check if you'll reach out. They wait for the usual follow-up. That doesn't come. That's new. Then, they start noticing the space. Not because you created distance, but because you stopped filling it. And space is what makes people reassess. Because attention feels normal, until it's not there anymore. Now they're thinking, why is this different? Why aren't you doing what you used to do? And without realizing it, they start measuring your value again. Because before, your attention was guaranteed. Now, it's not. And the moment something isn't guaranteed, it becomes noticeable. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped making yourself predictable. And predictability is what made you easy to overlook in the first place. So now the question isn't, how do you get their attention? It's, can you keep this version of yourself long enough for it to actually stick? But this is where people mess it up, because once they see this shift, they try to copy it. And that's where it goes wrong. They stop replying on purpose. They act distant on purpose. They start pulling back, hoping it creates a reaction. But that's not detachment. That's strategy. And strategy is still chasing. Because if what you're doing is meant to make someone feel something, you're still controlled by the outcome. Different behavior, same dependency. You've seen this before. Someone decides to pull back, but they're checking their phone every 5 minutes, watching your status, waiting to see if you noticed. That's not distance. That's anxiety with better timing. If your behavior is still trying to get a reaction, you're still chasing, just in a different form. And if this just changed how you see it, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, and send it to someone who thinks ignoring people is the same as having control. Because real detachment doesn't look like anything. That's why most people miss it. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's not performative. You respond, but you don't react. You engage, but you don't chase. You show up, but you're not trying to secure anything, because you're no longer acting to control what happens next. You're just acting from where you stand. Here's what that actually looks like. Someone takes hours to reply. You notice it, but you don't adjust your behavior to match it. You don't delay your response. You don't speed it up. You just respond when you're ready and move on, because your timing is no longer tied to theirs. Your energy is no longer reacting to theirs, and your presence is no longer dependent on whether they stay or go. That's detachment. Not distance, not silence, not pretending you don't care, but being the same, with or without them. And when you reach that point, you don't need to get respect back, because you stop giving it away in the first place. And this is the part most people never fully understand. Respect doesn't come from effort. It comes from stability. Not how much you do, but how little you change under pressure. Because effort can be faked. Attention can be forced. But stability? You can't fake that. It shows in how you respond when things don't go your way. Most people think respect comes from what you say. It doesn't. It comes from moments like this. Plans change last minute. You already made time for it. And instead of trying to reschedule, convince, or hold it together, but you just say, all right. No pressure. No shift in tone. No hidden frustration. That moment, that's where respect is built. That's why Seneca said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power," because the person who doesn't lose control of themselves can't be lowered by anyone else. People respect what doesn't depend on them. And once you understand that, everything starts to click. Because now, this isn't about tactics anymore. You're not trying to text less. You're not trying to act distant. You're not trying to control anything. You just stop. You stop chasing people. You stop negotiating your value. You stop abandoning yourself. And for the first time, you're not adjusting to keep someone. You're just staying as you are. And that changes everything. Because now, whether they stay or they leave, nothing about you shifts. That's the difference. Because the moment you stop chasing them is the moment you stop lowering yourself. And if you finally understand this, The next step matters more than everything you just heard. Watch the video on your screen right now. It shows you exactly how to make people stop taking you for granted. And if you're serious about changing how people treat you, subscribe and go through the full playlist.